It's not 2016 anymore. We used to live in a world where Anthony Joshua was the man, and even Tyson Fury was the man, and fighters like Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, these were the biggest names in the sport. And you might be saying, why are you bringing this up when Tyson Fury won a 12-round unanimous decision over an Arslanbek Makhmudov, ending his 16-month hiatus from the ring after he retired for God knows how many times? Well, the reason I bring that up is, even though Fury basically was very dominant and showed his craft and skill and was able to win in one-sided decision rather easily, it's pretty obvious he's not the same guy, and that's reasonable, right? Big guy. I think he's 37 now. Time matters. You know, the older you get, you're not the same fighter, and he's been in some tough fights, and I think anyone that's followed boxing and lived through it can now look and say Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury took a good part of each other's prime out of each other. Those fights were brutal and physical. And then on the other hand, Anthony Joshua is a fighter who, after winning this fight, Fury does kind of like a pro wrestling thing, calling out Joshua, and then Joshua kind of does an equally pro wrestling thing where he's like, I'm really the boss, and kind of plays to so I should say this too, is Joshua, to a lot of fans, is a beloved fight figure because there's a coolness to him. He was a British gold medalist in the super heavyweight division at the Olympics, wins the medal, and people saw him beat Klitschko after Tyson Fury, I should add, gets a knockout when he's losing. I think he's been an inherent cool figure who's become a big celebrity. That being said, he also represents something in boxing that I'm not a huge fan of, which is A-side advantages, which is what kind of made Usyk endearing to me was, let's make a fight, and then I'll make it work from there. In this, Joshua goes, I'm the boss, I'm whatever, you got to come and talk to me, etc. And I can't keep track of who's in the right or wrong with Fury or Joshua. They're both past their prime, right? It's not the fight that it once was, and prime for prime, Fury's just better than him, in my opinion. Fury just has more tools. The thing Joshua has, he's big, he's a puncher, but he's a tad bit robotic, and he's a bit predictable. So the intrigue came from the personality of Joshua, and can he land a big punch that would change the fight? But skill for skill, he was never as talented, in my opinion, as Fury, but he was more popular. And then when we get to this big moment of two older guys who make sense and they could fight each other, Joshua's utter indifference kind of just plays to like a very 2016 notion of, I'm more famous than you, I'm more rich than you, which has now turned into, how many followers do you have? How much influence do you have on social spectrums? How much do you move the needle there? It's like now gone from real world currency to digital currency in a way. But it's a very unlikable conversation. And it reminded me of how, even though Joshua's had all these great fights and Fury's had all these great fights, this era's coming to the end. And Fury's performance was good, but not great. Didn't knock the doors down. Agat KBL had a phenomenal performance against Makhmudov. Even Guido Vianello had a better performance. And honestly, Dave Allen had moments that looked better than Tyson Fury's moments. Tyson Fury did what he had to do to win. He got his rounds in. Joshua, we haven't seen him since he got knocked out by Daniel Dubois. And we saw him with Jake Paul, but, you know, what's that? He's lost family members, and is the sport evolving past some of these figures? I think that's the thing, like, we look at, and I always talk about the 16s, the 06, the 16, the 2026, the 2036, maybe we'll look at this if I still do this. There's this moment where, like, so the fighters know it's over, but they always kind of lie to themselves, I think. And I'm not fully saying it's these guys, but there's a level of, you might know that you don't have it, but you still do. But it feels like in these instances also time is creeping past these guys. They're hitting these ages that they would have said, wow, that guy's a little bit older, but now they're getting there and they're like, I'm the exception to the rule. We're going to make this fight. And quite frankly, you can't really push this Fury-Joshua fight any longer, because between Fury, Joshua, and Wilder, they're all extremely vulnerable at this point. What made Fury a great fighter was his elusiveness, his speed, and his ability to jab. he's just not as quick as he used to be. He's not as quick as nimble. He still has some of it, but it's just he doesn't have what made him that really, really special fighter anymore. Joshua, I mean, was very robotic and strong, but I'm not sure he ever really was a special fighter. And Wilder's just punching ability isn't there. And if you don't make some of these certain matchups with guys, what's left? What's left? And I think the big takeaway I took away from tonight was it's not 2016 anymore. It's not 2016. There's not all this time. And it really spoke to kind of a dated view, in my opinion, of let's let the fight marinate. And when we let the fight marinate, the fans always got screwed. And these are older fighters now kind of talking in an older pretense of boxing. It probably doesn't matter. People that are now entering the sport probably don't even think like that anymore. And it just kind of shows how the world's moving on. And hopefully we get some of these fights, but for such a big fight this week, it was strange how little it moved me as a hardcore fight fan.